I think we might be live.
Oh, we're live! This is the audio podcast, episode 96, The Return. Because we have returned. It's been 4 months since the last show, but as promised, we eventually returned. How awesome is this? Wow! I am an incredibly... the celebrations are ongoing on camera, as we see. I'm Scott here, and as always, I'm joined by...
Samuel Freeman, I'm here, and we also have the wonderful...
And Adam Yanch. And of course, today we have the traditional audio podcast show structure. So we're going to talk some news, we've got some other, and we're going to do some plunder. Scott, tell everybody about how they can enjoy the audio podcast and get in contact if they need to.
Well, if you want to get in contact with us, you can, via Facebook or Twitter. Twitter at the Audio Podcast is the best way. We record the show live for a Google Hangout as well, so you can find us on Google Plus if you want to as well. And if you kind of message us on Twitter or something, we might actually pay attention. And when you do that kind of thing, you can get all our contact details though at theaudiopodcast.co.uk, and that's where you can also subscribe to the podcast, or if you prefer to watch our delightful faces, you can also subscribe to us on YouTube. Yay.
Hurrah!
Hurrah! Let's get into the news.
We have, The news is at theaudiopodcast.co.uk/show/96. We'll give you the notes for this particular show.
And the very first news item is momentous. It might seem like a small thing, but it's actually incredibly significant in the audio world. It is that Motu, you no longer need to log in to download Motu drivers on their website. Yes.
That is good.
Yes. I know that seems like such a small thing, but it was so frustrating because why do you need to log in to download the driver for your 828 or something? It's not like someone's going to download it and cause terror or anything like that because they don't have an account with Motu. It's just a convenience thing, but it's a nice little thing that's just happened, and
it is cool,
yeah.
Isn't it? It's just cool.
It used to be every time you wanted to plug the sound card into a different computer, you'd have to reset the password, and it so yeah, that did for me anyway.
That is very yes, yeah. It is great news. It is great news. Also in the world of kind of drivers and compatibility, Pro Tools have also announced full and complete compatibility with OS X 10.9.
Yes. Now, does it seem to you like that was very quick for Pro Tools? Usually it takes months and months.
Yes, I would agree. Yeah. Years, in fact.
I was surprised when I found out. So it's version 11.0.3. That is compatible with macOS 10.9 Mavericks. But it isn't compatible with the new version of Windows 8.1. So if you've got 8.1 and you want to use Pro Tools, you'll have to wait a little longer.
I guess it's Pro Tools are moving through the version numbers much quicker now, aren't they? Though I'm saying there's been a real acceleration, hasn't there, in terms of moving through the major number releases, and I guess that probably means that if their intention is to kind of get to do a Pro Tools 12, Pro Tools 13 release in the next couple of years, then you can no longer spend 6 to 9 months getting support established for current OSs, can you anymore? It's just...
Well, I wonder if the update to 10 and 11 has actually made it easier for Pro Tools, for Avid to keep Pro Tools up to date.
Pro Tools is a lot more open to other sound cards and stuff than it ever used to be. Like they've got the whole USB sound card thing, so maybe it's just, as you say, with the newer versions, it's just closer to a bit more like what normal software would be. I don't know.
I mean, what we can say now is it's incredibly positive. Users of 10.9 can now use Pro Tools. I believe that's both versions, Pro Tools 11 and HD version. But yeah, if you're a Pro Tools guy or gal, you can upgrade to Mavericks. I've got Mavericks on my computer now. It seems fine. I can't say that I've really noticed much difference from the last one. So yeah.
Yeah. No, it's cool. To be honest, I've played with Mavericks a little bit. There was nothing about it that made me feel that I particularly needed to upgrade, other than I'm aware that I'm slowly falling off the bottom end of supported software. But
Are you still on 6.8? Or...
yeah,
Yeah, me
6.8. Happily, it's it runs all the time. I can't remember the last time the machine crashed at all. Actually, yeah. I did restart it I did restart it today actually before doing the show because I felt that the uptime on it was kind of about a year, so I felt that it'd probably, be appropriate just to start the computer again.
Just to make sure the audio podcast went off without a hitch.
Without a hitch.
Well, speaking of annual events, we have come to Christmas Advent time of year. We're in December now, and there are a number of people doing daily offers.
Indeed so. So the plugin Alliance is running one.
Yep.
Interestingly, with the plugin Alliance, every offer is actually available for 48 hours to encompass the time zones of the world.
Ooh.
Now, see, the Plugin Alliance one, because they did a Black Friday sale, and I guess what they're doing now is basically doing the Black Friday sale but staggered over the month. So it'll be a single plugin or two plugins a day that are down from their usual price, which is around usually average $250 to I think it's like $99. So if there are any of those plugins that you've been really interested in, particular the Brainworks ones, they've got some other brands there under the umbrella, then definitely check out the Plugin Alliance daily deals for this month.
How many people do you think ever buy plugins at full price anymore? Because when you consider Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the Advent series, there's usually something around about Halloween as well.
There's usually a summer sale as well.
There's like a summer bumper sale kind of thing happens. There's usually something around Easter. It just seems I do wonder whether people, because I know that whenever I'm wanting to buy something, if there is any seasonal holiday even on the horizon, I generally just hold off a couple of weeks, and inevitably it comes significantly cheaper at that point. It just strikes me as I'd be interested in whether yeah. There you go.
So the other one we have linked to is DV247. However, it is nigh on impossible to find these offers through their website. But if you're on their mailing list, then you will receive it through the email every day. They've got a different offer, which seems to be kind of sporadic. On one of the days was offering a guitar, the other time was offering a microphone plus preamp bundle. So yeah, every day in your inbox, if you sign up for DV247 to their marketing stuff, they will tell you what their offer is that day.
Mm-hmm. And yes, it's important to note with that one that we think you can only get that deal through the mailing list. So you can't go on the website and find it. I tried to, because I don't like clicking links in emails, so I went to the website to try and find it. Couldn't find a jot. So you have to sign up with the DV247 mailing list, and then you get the link in the email.
And we all love new stuff, and Cubase have released version 7.5. Sam, I believe you know more about this?
I do. So, yeah, that was released the end of last week, I think. The thing that caught my... So it's 7.5, yeah, some little updates. The one thing that caught my eye the most is if you go to the bottom of the page that has been linked through the show notes, the very last item is the internet recording with VST Connect SE2. So this is only in the 7.5, in Cubase 7.5. It's not included with Cubase Artist 7.5. But yeah, this is some sort of thing. Apparently, like VST Connect is not itself new, but it's been extended to also support MIDI. Now, I missed the release of the first version round of this. This appears to be remote recording, and now with MIDI, so you can talk to someone via webcam and also record into a session that way. That's pretty cool. If that works, I'd like to try this out just to see how good it is.
Maybe we should do a version of the audio podcast using, although we'd all have to get Cubase 7.5.
Yeah, I suppose you would need it running on both ends, wouldn't you?
And I'll tell you this, I'm not going to upgrade to Cubase or side grade to Cubase.
Side grade to Cubase.
Crossgrade.
Crossgrade to Cubase. I was just checking whether I'd need to upgrade my Mac to run this version of Cubase, but I can't see the compatibility statement.
Probably would. I seem to remember I'd looked myself.
Well, Scott, it might be time. You know, you're on 10.6.8, which was released in about 2003.
Yeah. So, when the shuttle was still flying.
Was Concorde still flying as well?
Was Pluto a planet back then?
Yeah, yeah. So this version is Mac OS X version 10.8, 10.9, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 7, Windows 8. It needs a Core 2 Duo processor on either bit of hardware. 2 gig of RAM. There you go. That's
I think, yeah, just on Cubase in general, for quite a few years, every new thing they've added in, I thought, well, you know, that's all well and good, but I would never use it. But now that that's been happening for a while, all the stuff that's in there together has got me thinking, you know, maybe it would be worth it for the occasional time I want DAO type functionality. Who knows?
It's interesting, isn't it, this discussion of when you should upgrade things or not? Because I've been in a job I do, I've been working with the new version of Live and realized that while there's all these new things in the new version of Live, none of them are actually of any particular interest in terms of the kind of typical, typical usage scenarios. Everything I would previously have done, I can continue to do, and that's perfectly fine. But none of there aren't any of the new features which have particularly kind of grabbed me at any point and been like, oh, you should be using me, because it's just, like, you become used to the tools inside the bit of software you're using, don't you? And then once you know how to do everything you need to do, it's only if some new scenario comes about that you need one of the new things that they become of interest. Otherwise, it's, it just that's been my experience. I don't know how you guys have found it. I understand that Adam, you upgraded to Logic Pro, didn't you, over the gap?
Yes, I did. I got the new version Logic Pro X. Thought I'd give it a shot. It basically does most of what Logic Old does. It looks nicer. I'll give it that. It's still the same layout though. You still got your multiple panes, and you can have your arrange window, and it opens an editor and all this kind of stuff. Not sure if much of the new stuff I've noticed. There are some bugs and some new things that are just completely confusing to me. There's a thing called alignment guides, which is an arrange window thing, and it's just a complete pain in the ass. I don't know if I just ruined our clean rating by saying that word there.
No, I think we're probably just about okay with one.
Okay, that's fine. I won't say it again. But you can switch that off, and I've been having trouble with my sound card recording only into Logic and getting noise through that. So there must be some strange thing happening with Logic's connection to the sound card. So I don't know about that. But on the whole, yeah, again, it's a pretty decent deal because you get all of the loops and you get all of the instruments and da-da-da. If you're a Logic fan, then and you haven't upgraded, then you probably will. It's fine.
Fair enough.
Just before we move on, there's one other feature that had caught my eye, and I wonder whether or not Logic X has anything similar, which is the new Cubase 7.5 track versions. So you can make a version of the track, so all of the edits, all of the parameter settings, and everything for the entire track can be kind of saved, and then you can change it and save it again, and then you can flick between different versions. Is a new feature called track versions.
Yeah.
Is anything like that in Logic?
Adam, I guess?
I don't know if, because I'll be honest, I was just replying to an audio podcast tweet just then, so I wasn't really listening. But you're talking about different versions of tracks?
Yeah, so
there is something called, well, that's actually a good feature that I found. It's called alternatives, so you can say you've got to a particular point, but you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to change it all and experiment with this because it will ruin the old one. You'd normally create a new version of the whole file. Now they've got now they've got a thing called alternatives, so you can create a new alternative, do all the edits you want, but you can switch back to the point at which you made that one, and it will go back to that. Or you
Yeah,
can,
that sounds about the same as this. That's cool.
yeah,
I like
so
I like the idea of that.
that's a good upgrade thing, which I wouldn't have remembered if you hadn't have just mentioned that.
Good stuff. Shall we move on?
Okay.
Yes, we should.
What would you like to move on to?
Well, is Spotify now? Oh, and this is the point where everything's changed. Is it Spotify?
Indeed it is.
Good. Scott?
Fair enough. So I spotted this. Spotify did an update of the Spotify artist pages, and in doing so, they've obviously been feeling a lot of pressure regarding whether they're, whether they're good for artists, whether they're kind of making a sustainable business or something or not, and they've been trying to deal with this. So as a consequence, they put together this new page which talks about what their contribution actually is financially, how and how they think that stacks up with other things. There's lots of charts and figures. It's worth a read. I suspect that we'll probably get a whole load of there's a whole load of kind of projects I'm sure will be triggered off on the back of this kind of checking the claims and things like that. The summary point is simply the fact that they feel that they pay more. Well, they feel that they pay more than anybody else, and as a consequence, they think that means that they're the best choice because they pay more than anybody else. And they have lots of statistics that show how if people, rather than people watching music on YouTube and YouTube paying the amount of money they pay based on the advert you see at the start, if those people were all to watch those videos or to watch that music on Spotify, then the artists would receive more money through Spotify as a consequence of doing that. But they don't.
But there's a problem with that argument, and that is that YouTube, you can just go to YouTube and watch a video, but Spotify, you have to log in and have an account and blah blah blah. So Spotify they're making a strange comparison there, or not equal comparison there. But that was just one little bit that you pulled out.
So that was Scott's summary. Yeah, if you perhaps read the thing, but.
Oh yeah, no. There's loads of. I want to be careful about how I say this, obviously, but there are lots of problems with what's suggested on there, what they suggest. You know what I mean? Like, I would summarize that if they're correct that they are the best solution, then the industry is doomed. Would be my approximation, because it's not large. You know what I mean? It's, you know what I mean? They're paying more than anybody else, but that's not to say that what they're paying is in any way sustainable. And there's lots of weird statistical moments where you're like, you know what I mean? They kind of illustrate how that if everybody in the world is considered a superstar, then that will, everybody would be fine. But obviously that's not likely to happen. Possibly is impossible to happen. So.
Was there not something within the model? It's basically they've kind of explained a bit of the payment model that they're using, and it's not linear. It's not a straightforward thing. Is there something about a song being more popular or an artist being more popular getting more money or something along those lines? I read something about it and it didn't really sink in.
Yes, that's exactly the same system that YouTube uses as well, though. But the more popular a thing is, or the associated entities are, the more people pay for the privilege of having some sort of attachment to them, and likewise Spotify pay more to keep those people within the Spotify service, sort of style. That's what I mean. I'm saying it's purely, you know what I mean. The end point to it is that Spotify pay more than YouTube would advertise that they pay. But then I know from my experience with YouTube and things like that is that the amount of money that YouTube will pay for adverts on things is variable as well. So if you have a particularly high value, if you have a video which is trending high and has lots and lots of views and lots of interactions on it, then you'll find you get paid more per advert you show at the start of it than you would do on a lesser known video. So it's interesting that, I mean, I think they're, I think I can understand why Spotify wrote the page. I don't think there's anything there that people who are interested in the industry probably weren't aware of. And I suspect that there's, I don't think it. I think it's their attempt to justify their existence against the existence of all the other parties. But I don't think it's particularly kind of comforting reading for anybody actually involved in the creative side of the industry.
Well, there we go. Spotify, something Spotify.
Maybe instead of listening to Spotify, you just want to sit at home and noodle on your guitar and perhaps record into your iPad or such a device. I don't
That
know.
sounds like a great idea.
Hey, do you know
Is
what
there
you could
something that
use?
we can do that with? Because that would be incredible.
It just so happens there is. Jam Up Plug HD. It's a small little box that will fit onto your iOS device and has jack inputs for your guitar. Ta-da!
Works with the old style connector and the new style connector via an adapter.
That's really not like a double feature, is it? But what I mean is it works by the old style connector.
Yes.
Anyway.
And it has that moment where it talks about studio quality audio, doesn't it? It says with studio quality audio, but in fact what it means is 24-bit, 44.1, and 48K. So that's you know. When do you think that when do you think the notion of studio quality will mean 96K? Like when do you think will we ever get to that point, or is studio quality just doomed to always mean 44.1?
In the studio space?
Or in any space?
Well, I suppose it's supposed to differentiate between CD quality and MP3 quality, I suppose.
Yeah.
But even then, CD is 40.1. They're offering 41 or 48. Yeah, I would have thought it would have been 96 if I'd have only read what you said, which I didn't. I just skipped straight to the text spec where it says what the numbers are. But
yeah.
I think what we should do is try and get a new term adopted in the industry: ultra studio quality.
I think the term would be HD audio. I think perhaps because when you've got HD video, isn't the audio on that 96 or not?
Not necessarily.
It depends, doesn't it? Let's not go there.
Video is really complicated. Video is really complicated.
Yeah.
Audio is only slightly complicated.
Oh, complicated. I like Adam's. What was it? Ultra studio quality. What were you suggesting, Adam?
Ultra studio quality.
I like that. We should try and push that as a box item, as a box label. That'd be nice.
Yeah, Sam, you're not allowed to be involved in this because you want to call it HD. We've just basically started a format war here, haven't we?
Yeah, just for fun. But all it actually is a name that represents the same thing. That's brilliant. It's a great one. Yeah, so it's been announced. It has a 1/4-inch stereo phono jack to go in and a 1/4-inch headphone jack to listen to.
A 1/4-inch stereo phono jack. What's that?
No, like stereo jack. Yeah. I don't know actually.
So I was just messing with you.
No, that's what's been written actually, which is probably came straight off their tech spec.
Oh, well, that's no good. Oh yeah, look at that.
It says phone jack. It's not phono, like telephone. Phone jack.
Yeah.
No, I think what they really mean is I don't know what they mean.
There is a phone jack,
telephone
which
exchange is like.
Yeah, but that's different. A telephone exchange jack is a POTS jack, isn't it? And it has a slightly wider bit at the end.
I'd say that they just call it that because it looks like an old telephone exchange jack.
This bit here there is a POTS phone jack, and that bit of the phone jack is wider than this bit. It's a different shape. There you go. The audio podcast supplying utterly useless information.
Wouldn't it be great if Scott had to pull that jack out and then we couldn't hear him, and he was just pointing at a jack and then he put it back in?
No, this is the point where I like pointing at things on the video feed, of course. Yes, but that's good. I'm usually the one that does that.
Okay, I think we should move on to what is a very interesting story. Now, I think Scott, did you put this one in? I think you should introduce it, but I've got a little thing that I can mention here.
Excellent stuff. So this is a paper that I saw that was released through one of the academic journals, and what it is it's entitled "On Covert Acoustical Mesh Networks in the Air," and essentially what it is they have established a way of detecting what is being typed based on using a built-in microphone and built-in speakers on a Lenovo laptop, is what it is. And as a theoretical thing, it could work on any kind of laptop. However, it is an incredibly low bandwidth kind of thing. So you could use this to grab passwords, but you couldn't grab every keystroke. You have to be selective in what you can send. But nonetheless, it is a theoretical possibility. So there you go.
Very interesting. And that links in with something that I've been reading about, and I guess you two might have come across this as well. It's something called bad BIOS, and there's a little write-up about it on Ars Technica, which was a few weeks ago. But basically, there's backstory. There's a guy was surprised that his computers kept getting infected with some random malware, even though these computers, he was testing it, and these computers weren't even connecting to a network to be able to receive something that would infect the computer. So he's gone into this big experimentation, and one theory that he's come up with is the transference of malware using ultra-high frequency audio between computers.
Ooh, very cool.
I did come across that, yeah.
And basically, yeah, this bad BIOS is is the name of this malware that he's been looking at. But yeah, this idea that it kind of blew my mind a little bit when it was mentioned. This idea that you could actually put two computers in a room together, and one could become infected by the other one just sending out high frequency audio, and the other one receiving it. But thinking about it, I'm not so sure if it's really possible, because the receiving computer would have to be set up to understand what it was receiving via a microphone. So it would already need some software on board on it. And surely ultra-high frequency audio would be messed up by digital sampling rates at some point. 96 might work, but at 44, I mean, it depends how it works, I suppose. But it was only like transferring bytes of information rather than like megabytes or anything like that. It wasn't anything big. But anyway, yeah. So that's another little thing that story that you posted reminded me of.
Oh, very very cool. I'm literally right now adding that into the comment show notes there. So somebody else can take us into the next story if they want.
Okay. Well, what I'm not going to do is say what that reminded me of and make this into like, oh, that story reminds me of something we've not yet talked about. So let's go back to the show notes and say, oh, we've got more holiday pricing. This could have been with the other. Isotope have holiday pricing apparently until the end of December. They are offering. I'm just reading this on the screen. Can you tell? Bunch of stuff.
I wouldn't have been able to tell. I wouldn't have been able to tell if you hadn't just told me.
Well, I said, and I point people to the show notes to see what that's about if they're interested in holiday pricing from Isotope. Isotope. How do you pronounce that?
I just call it Isotope.
Yeah, Isotope. Yeah. Oh gosh, now we're getting into like the really old stuff, which we would have talked about if we'd have actually recorded a show 4 months ago.
And this looks like a very Sam-esque type of thing.
It does. We talked about this when it was announced, before it was released, and then it was released and we stopped recording shows, which is the Spiral analyzer plugin made by Photosounder, of which there is a version available through Computer Music Magazine in the UK, but the full product is also available from Photosounder, which has a lot more features, and there's a demo of that available. Links available to those. I made a couple of videos with these demonstrating how they work in terms of what the display does and confirming the things that we talked about in the show. So yeah, I'll add a link to those if anyone's interested. A couple of short videos, how they work and how you can work with it.
Sweet. Cool. And from there we move on to the fact that Steinberg has added integration into Cubase and Nuendo for nectar points. So I have no idea how that works, but I suppose if you go to Sainsbury's or any other place where you get nectar points, your nectar points will turn up there in Cubase and Nuendo, and somehow do something about making music. No, I'm kidding. I think Sam can explain this one a bit better than I can.
This is back to Sam here. Though I do love the fact that there is a quest to map every VST plugin known to man. I do love the idea that is an outcome. I like that.
Yeah.
Sam.
That's what it is. This is Nectar, made by someone. I forget who. It's a long time ago. This is old stuff, but it's made by Nectar Tech. This is a company that started making quite nice looking hardware interfaces which was originally just for the propeller head reason, but now they've expanded it for controlling other stuff. And at the time, whenever this was posted, it was newly added for Cubase and Nuendo. That's it. It's old news, this one, but yeah.
Well, some other old news is the release of the. Oh, I'm choking. Some other old news is the release of the Chrome Web Lab Orchestra as well, which was Google released this and is the code by which they did a number of kind of projects with the Science Museum in London, which about kind of with ideas of kind of telepresence and those kind of ideas in it. And they have released all of the source they used to make it work. So it's I thought that was kind of cool because I know some of our listeners are kind of into that, and I know that's an interest of some of us as well. So.
Yes, so if you want, anyone, I guess this is plunder category now, I suppose, but we haven't got there yet. Yeah.
Well, it would be plunder if we had. Yeah, we should have rescheduled that.
But yeah, if you wanted to do anything that connects HTML5 and JavaScript across WebSockets through Node.js and stuff like that, then to Max MSP or Max Runtime for doing MIDI stuff, then yeah, open source project here on GitHub that would help with that.
Yeah. And with that, we come to the end of the news.
And into the other section.
Yeah.
I like the other section.
So,
into our vaguely and mysteriously named other section. Which I think it should be called miscellaneous, but Scott disagrees.
Yeah, we'll just call it other because then it's yeah. So, Adam apparently has a tip about storing microphones.
I do, and I still remember it. From 4 months ago. So the backstory to this is I moved house back in the summer, and when I was moving out of my old place, which was a block of flats in Bristol, I was taking my rubbish out, and then there in the little place where all the bins were was a golf club bag, and I was thinking, hey, that looks all right. You know, why would you chuck that out? And I had a look at it, and then all of a sudden I thought, holy moly! You could put microphone stands in there, and that's just genius, because aren't microphone stands the most irritating thing to store and move?
And carry.
Oh, yes, and here we go. We've got golf bags, golf-related accessories. Perfect, absolutely perfect. So I took this golf bag, and it's sitting in my garage, and it doesn't have any microphone stands in it right now.
But should you want to carry multiple microphone stands, it's ready and waiting. That's brilliant, Adam.
Thank you.
Very cool, very cool.
And Scott, you supposedly you have a solution for cable tidying in a semi-permanent studio installation, but I don't know if you can remember it, can you?
No, I can. This is I have since in the interviewing period completely trashed my studio and completely rearranged it. And Sam Freeman was very happy with the rearranged space, but I'm still not convinced. Anyway, all this was just this was a trick I keep using over and over again actually, which is to if you cut the end off Pringles tins, so they're open-ended on both ends, then you can stuff cables down through them. And as a consequence, I know it's so obvious, but I found that as a consequence of this, if you're kind of constantly changing spaces and things, moving things around and changing spaces like that, I found that doing that rather than taping cables down is so much quicker in terms of being able to move things. But also because they're a short length, you don't have to worry about trying to get the cable the whole way through, because you can literally push it in at one end, grab at the other end, and just put 3 or 4 in a line to give you kind of a variable length. So I find that's kind of cool. Wow. But the really neat version of it is if you have a desk which has a lip, at the front or the back, then what I actually do is I tape the Pringles tin to the underside of the lip at the back, and then you can actually put the cables in, so you have the cables constantly attached to the desk coming on and off like that. And I find
genius. And that, to me, that is exactly the kind of studio tip that you'd come up with, Scott, because I know you like Pringles.
That's very true.
All I want to know now is, can we combine your Pringles idea with my golf club bag idea and come up with this amazing solution for all of your studio storage needs?
Well, perhaps, though, an even more exciting thing would be the 4-foot-tall Pringleton.
Well, the same diameter but 4 foot tall.
Yes, indeed so.
So there
I
you
think
go.
we should head out of the other section as we maneuver into the plunder. I think we should formally acknowledge the fact that this show 96 was intended to be recorded in September maybe, or even earlier than that, and we have had this unintended prolonged holiday due to a variety of circumstances, but and you should not consider today's show as indication that normal service is to be resumed, because normal service is not to be resumed just yet because of Christmas, I suspect. So I think there is a hope amongst us that there will be a Christmas show, because while Sam has some festive cheer, there's a lack of festive cheer between us. So there is hope there will be a end-of-year Christmas special that will happen at some point before Christmas, and then I suspect we will return in January. But there is a commitment that the audio podcast does exist and will continue. So... But there isn't going to be a show every week again until January. But there we go.
At least.
At least, yes. But anyway, with that said, let's get into the plunder.
Plunder! Rawr, rawr. I completely forgot that that's what we had to do, and so I just made up some completely random sounds.
Well, did you find that your body was resonating while you made those sounds, Adam?
Yeah. In particular, this bit right here, my left wrist. But then I'm physiologically different to everyone in the entire world, so I wouldn't take that as standard.
Fair enough. Listen to the noise, has a diagram which tells you which body parts resonate at which frequency. There we go.
Hurrah.
4.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be the left shoulder.
Oh yeah, definitely. Is the right shoulder slightly higher, isn't it? 4.5.
Now, it doesn't tell us whether certain body parts resonate to certain key changes.
Ooh.
However, overthinking it are trying to find the greatest key change of all time and would value your opinion. Do you have an opinion about these key changes?
Would they actually? Would they? Because like isn't this a really old story? Like it's cool that it's there, Plunder, but I don't know if they. I haven't read it, and if they're open to suggestion, then I did notice that this was published in 2009. So I don't know if they're still interested. If they were interested, then they might have worked it out by now. Is there a follow-up? Who knows?
I couldn't find the follow-up, no. But I thought it was kind of cool. Which is your favorite? Do you have a favorite key change or favorite song out of the 4 tunes offered to us here?
No.
Fair enough.
No.
So,
but I do
think...
thoroughly enjoy key changes in pop music. Like I do take pleasure in laughing when it happens.
I think that it's a thing that's very specific to a particular song. It's very relative. So I don't really see how doing a massive global top-down look at it all really helps anybody.
You know, I bet the Echo Nest have an API that could calculate this actually.
perhaps.
Probably 4. Probably 4.
Is that the answer or the question?
Moving on from key changes
4?
to changes of a Wikipedian nature.
Okay.
I've lost the show notes. Hang on.
That was so smooth. There is an online sonification project that lets you listen to Wikipedia.
Oh, yeah.
So the sounds indicate additions or subtractions from Wikipedia articles, and pitch changes according to the size of the edit. Now, I think this is absolutely awesome. Actually, I'm going on this here. This is really awesome because I've been envisioning this kind of thing in my mind for a long time. Actually, for various projects I've been working with, because there's so many. As part of lots of things I do, I kind of look after a couple of hundred websites, and I've always dreamed for a long time that I could listen to music in the background, and if everything is fine across all those websites, then the music just carries on. I just enjoy the music. But the minute that some sort of problem occurs, that there would be some sort of change in the musical, that there would be some sort of change so I could hear it. So instead of me having to sit here with this massive scrolling thing that constantly checks all the sites and tells me what's going on, instead I would just hear music. The musical situation would tell me if things are, if things are okay, if things are under heavy load, if things are changing. And then when something catastrophic happens, it would immediately start playing high stress music. You know, like something that's kind of like a real kind of pace to it and real darkness and kind of, you know, stresses people out really quickly. I'd really love that to be an existence.
Metallica?
Oh yeah, something like that. You know, it's you know, it'd be nice. It's like that kind of effect.
Oh no, Unforgiven 2 is playing. All these websites have just gone offline for no reason. That type of thing, yeah.
There you go.
Scott, you could create that. I mean, there's technology out there that would allow you to do that.
Yes, it is in my list of kind of Christmas holiday projects. I haven't decided where on the list if it's going to be the one that's done. I inevitably end up just spending a lot of time building a train network. But if I don't build a train network, I may build that instead. Shall we head on? How about iPhone text tones? What does Amy know about this article?
Can we not head on? Can we pause there and or maybe I should put this in next week or something. But the web audio is how that particular thing works. And when such things were first coming out, there was kind of two flavors. There was the Mozilla and there was the web audio API. And Firefox and Mozilla have decided to drop the one that they originally championed in favor of what's become the standard. I will endeavour to put that into the next show notes because that's an interesting story. But now I've said it, I'll have to do it. Okay.
Cool. So, Kelly Jacqueline has an interesting document about the making of the iPhone text tone.
Oh, I see. Like the standard one.
Yes.
What does it sound like? We can't play it because we're not.
Nobody has an
to.
iPhone.
Oh yeah, well I certainly don't have an iPhone. Mine
Sam,
goes.
do you have an iPhone?
Boo-boo.
No, I don't have an iPhone.
No.
Sam, does yours go beep beep like that?
Almost. Yeah, I have mine doesn't have a camera or anything like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, there we go. We made it.
Hooray!
Oh, we've done it! Way!
Hooray! I don't know how long that show was. I think it was reasonably long.
45 minutes, I reckon.
45 minutes, you reckon?
Yeah. Let's see.
Awesome stuff. So there we go. The audio podcast. Are we going to commit to it or not? The intention is that the audio podcast will return for the Christmas special and end of year excitement. However, whether we actually manage to do it or not is a question yet to be proven. It's to be discussed. But that is definitely our intention. But for now, this was show 96 of the audio podcast. The return. I'll say goodbye from Scott. That's me.
And goodbye from Samuel Freeman. That's me.
And Adam Jansch will also say goodbye. And Merry Christmas! Woo!
Merry Christmas!
And on the stop button. Bye.